Hello everyone and welcome to African Tech Gurus. This is your number one channel where we learn technology by doing. If you are new to this channel, thank you so much for clicking on our video. We appreciate you, and please make sure you subscribe and click on the notification bell button so that each and every single time we upload a new video, you are immediately notified. The other thing is, if you are a returning viewer and a returning subscriber, we thank you so much for coming back. Here we will continue learning, and thank you for even sharing with your friends who are also on this technology journey with us. And at the end of the day, we want to become better African tech gurus. So today we are covering the first shell navigation, which is the first project in 0-day tasks, and it's called 0x00.shell navigation. So that is what we're going to cover today, and it is basically how to navigate through our shell. Yes, and shell is what we'll be using most of the time. So it's telling us welcome to the matrix, and for most people will be a very fast experience using the Unix terminal. And don't feel afraid, don't feel shy, just jump right into it. And today we're going to break it down and break down the very most simplest concepts, which are the most important. So the first thing we need to know is how to navigate our terminal, our Unix terminal. And the next thing we need to do is we need to know how to move around, which is the Linux looking around resource that they have provided here. And the next thing we need to learn how to do is we need to be able to understand how we should manipulate our files and the different directories that we have, and that is provided in this link here. So those are the three main things that you need to make sure you understand by the end of this specific unit and this specific topic. And if you want to dig deeper into the nitty-gritties of the different concepts, you can use man on your terminal, and it will break down exactly what each and every single code is doing, or every single instruction. Yes, so we'll start with the first one, which is Linux navigation. And this is it. And in this lesson, the first thing that they're just going to introduce, the first main three commands that you will be using a lot of times is pwd, cd, and ls. These three will help you navigate inside your terminal and inside your file system. So the first one, pwd, it's called print working directory. So what that does, it will just show you the current directory that you're working in. And directory in this case, if you're to use it in your local computer, will be your folder. So here let's look at a directory like a folder, and a file is what we call just a file. It's just called a file. Yeah. And cd, it will help us change directory. So it will help us move from one folder to the other one. So in our normal computers, you can move from one folder to the other just by clicking on the file itself. But that is different with Unix. You literally need to put in the command in your terminal and state specifically where you're moving from and where you're moving to. And then the other thing that we usually see on our computers normally is you will see the names of all the files that you have and all the names of the folders, and folders are the directories. But with Unix file organization system, that is not possible. You can't see it all at once, so you need to use the ls command. Yes, so these are the three new ones that we need to make sure we understand today. And if this is a very, very fast time learning this, please pay very close attention, because you need to understand what these commands do and how to use them. I hope you got that one right. So one of the common thing with file organization systems, as they are mentioning here, which is the same as in Windows, and Windows is our normal file organization system that we use on computers, is that Windows and Linux, what they do in common is they are arranged in a hierarchical manner. So that means it moves from the first step to the next. It's not disorganized, so there's a hierarchy to it, and it's very very organized, and that means that they are organized like a tree pattern um, of directories or folders. So what that means is you will have the root, and then you'll have, like, let's call them the branches, which might be other files or other folders. So what they're just saying is the files or the subdirectories. So you have one big directory, which if it was a tree, it can be the trunk, and then now the trunk can have other branches, which we can call them now subdirectories, which are other directories, and then now these branches move and move and move until they have now leaves. So in this case, the leaves can be the files. So one thing that you need to make sure you understand is the very first file system, the very first directory in the system, is the root directory. So think of it like the tree. The very first place a tree grows from is the root. So it's the very same thing. The very first directory that each file system starts from is the root directory. And then now the root will contain other directories or files. And then now from there to continue branching and so on until the very end. And for most computers, they have the graphical environment, which I have mentioned, which helps you see how to move and manipulate the different contents of your directories and of your files. I hope you got that one right. So we've seen one of the key things that is common between Windows and Linux, the hierarchical manner in which the files and directories are viewed and how they're manipulated. Now, when we move to one of the main differences between Windows and Unix-like operating systems, such as Linux, is that there's a difference in the concepts that they employ to save their different files and their different folders. So Windows will employ the concept of drive letters, and this Windows drive letters, it just means that Windows will have one root directory, and then it can have different linkages and different trees from there. So for Windows, what it employs is it will employ drive letters split system, and what happens here is that each different file system or each tree can be branched into a different tree. I hope you got that one right. So you will have one tree and it can have a different tree, and then within that different tree it can have now the different directories and the different files and subdirectories and so on and so on. But for Linux, it is very different. There is only one single tree. So there can't be a different tree within that tree in Linux. It can only accommodate one single tree. So the different storage devices may be different branches of the tree, but there is always one single tree. I hope you got that one right. There can be different storage devices, but at the end of the day, there is just one single tree in a Linux system. I hope that is clear. Windows will have a series of different trees, but Linux will have just one single tree. So now we can jump into the first command, which is the pwd. So here they're saying, since the command line interface does not provide a graphic picture of the file system like Windows do, that is why we need to use pwd. So here you can think of the file system as a maze kind of system. You enter the maze, which is like entering into your terminal or opening your terminal, and you are where you enter at, or where you're at if you've already entered, that is where you're standing at any given moment in that directory. So if you want to know where you are at and you're in this big maze, which in our case is our terminal, what will you do to know where you're at? You will just use pwd. I hope you got that one right. Pwd. So what they're saying is, inside that directory, we can see its files and the pathways to its parent directory and the pathways to the subdirectories of the directory in which we are standing at. So what happens is, when we want to know where we are standing, we use pwd. So the directory, or where we are standing in, is our working directory or our current directory. I hope you got that one right. The directory, or the folder, if we can call it a folder, where we are standing in, is called the working directory. So if you want to see that name, or you want to know where you're standing at, you use pwd. I hope you got that one right. So here there is something I want us to look at. They are saying when we first log onto our Linux system, the working directory is our home directory. And this is where we put all our files, and on most systems the home directory will be called this, home/username, but it can be anything depending on the different system administrator that you are using. So when you just enter your Linux system, or you first log in, it is called your home directory. And then now, as you move further and further into the different directories or into the different folders, and you want to know where you're at, use pwd to know where you're standing at, or where you're at in your current directory. I hope you got that one right. And if you've moved from your home directory and you've already moved into further, your current working directory it also has a parent working directory, which is where it has stemmed from, or just the previous directory before it. So if you have already logged in into your system and moved one step and created another directory, and you want to know where you're at, which is your working directory, and you want to know the one that is just previous to you, it will be your home directory, but in this case it can also be your parent directory. So I hope you got that one. You can move further away from your home directory, but where you're standing at, the folder or the directory just before that is your parent directory, and the home directory is the very, very first one that you logged into your Linux system and you found. Yes, so please make sure you understand that. If you need further guidance, kindly comment down below and we will definitely help out. Now, the next thing is how to list the different files that you have in your system. So, as I've mentioned, most computers have the graphical user interface where you can see the different files that you have. But in our Unix systems, we can't have that visibly for us. So when we want to list all the files that we have in directories, or know what we have, we use ls command. And there are a lot of different things you can use with the ls command. There are different options, but we will look at that later. For today, we just want to understand what these commands actually do. And the next thing I want us to look at is the cd command, which is the change your working directory. Change the working directory. So here we are just changing where we are standing at. So we want to move from one point in the maze to another point in the maze. So to do this, we use the cd followed by the path name of where we want to move to, which is our desired working directory. I hope you got that one right. So here they're saying a path name is the route we take along the branches of the trees. So now we are just moving along the branches of this specific tree. And in this case, we have Linux tree, which is the same tree. And the path names can be specified into two different ways. You can have an absolute path name or a relative path name. You can have an absolute path name or a relative path name. So if we look at the absolute path name first, here it begins with the root directory and then follows the tree branch by branch until we get to where the desired directory or the file that we want to move to is. So that is the absolute. We start at the root and we go step by step. So for example, if we are in our directory, if there is a directory in our system in which most programs are installed, and the path name will be this. The path name is /usr/bin. So what this means is from the root directory, which is represented by the first leading slash or the /, in the path name, there is a directory called USR, and inside it, it will contain another directory called bin. So that is all that it means. So the forward slash just tells us move from the root directory, and then from there move to the next directory, which is called bin. I hope you got that one right. So that is, you can see it here, what I have highlighted. CD, we are changing our directory, and this is the route that we want to follow, from the root to that folder called bin. And now when we type this, we need to press enter for it to execute. And once it has executed, we can now confirm using pwd to check what is our current working directory, or in simple terms, where are we standing at in this big maze. I hope you got that one right, and it will tell us here that you are standing in a maze in a directory called bin, which is a directory inside another directory called USR. I hope you got that one right. And now the next question is, we can ask ourselves, so what is contained in this directory called bin? And if we want to see what is contained inside this directory called bin, we use the command ls, which we have looked at before. I hope you got that one right. So another thing that maybe you might have noticed is the difference between this, the very first description of where we are at, and this one. So what this does is, when you move your directory to your desired directory, for ease and for convenience, it will, the shell prompt will tell us here using the name where we are currently at this bin. It will just easily help us identify and know where we are at in our file system. So that is how we use the absolute path name to move from one directory to the next. So if we are to continue, there are something else that they're telling us, which is very important, and you need to understand and make sure this concept sinks in. So here they are saying, where an absolute path name starts from the root directory, which we have seen, it will eventually lead us to the destination, which is where we want to go to, our desired location or directory where we want to go to. Now, a relative path name, it will start from our current working directory. So what this means is, it will just start from where you are at that specific time. And how we do this is slightly different from how we have seen absolute path names work. So to do this, we use a couple of special notations to represent our relative position, and our relative position is where we are at in the file systems tree. So the two notations that we need to make sure we understand is one single dot and two dots. So a single dot will refer to the working directory itself. So it will just be where you're standing at. That single dot represents where you're at. So you'll see this even later on in other code as well, that when you use the single dot in any combination of commands, it will represent your working directory. But if we use two dots, it will refer to our working directory's parent directory. So our working directory, it has stemmed from another directory. The same way we see in our Windows system, there is a folder within a folder. So if we have that folder within a folder, the first folder is where we are standing at, and it is inside a bigger folder. So that is all it means. Our working directory is the inner folder, and our parent directory is the outer folder. So that is what it just means. That's it. It doesn't mean a lot of things. So now we had already seen how to use the absolute path name, how to use that. Now let us look at how we can use a relative path name. So here we are using cd, which means change directory, and two dots. And what this is saying is, just change your directory from the current directory to the parent directory. I hope you got that one. So in this case, USR is our parent directory, as we have seen here, what I have highlighted. Bin, which is a smaller directory, is inside USR, which is the bigger directory. So that is all it means. This means exactly that. So this is exactly the same as it's just the same thing as saying move to the parent directory. I hope you got that one right. So using two dots is the same as using this CD. We want to change our working directory and you want to go to the parent directory. So if you are a user, which one would you prefer? I would prefer using two single dots because I don't have to, one, type a lot, and two, I don't need to know exactly the name of the parent directory. So using the relative path name, in this case, it is easier compared to using the absolute path name. So the next thing we want to cover is another way that you can change the working directory, and we can use two different ways, and we want to see which one will be easier. So earlier we used this to change our working directory, and we checked where we are standing at, and it was in bin, which is inside USR directory. So if we are to use the relative name, remember we can use a single dot to represent our current working directory. And how we know our current working directory is we can just look at this display from our system, and here our current directory is USR. So what we just need to do is CD and dot will represent our current working directory, which is called USR, and a leading slash or a forward slash, and the name of the other directory, or in this case subdirectory. It's the same thing, and it is called bin. And once we put that in and press enter, it will move us into that. And how we get to know that is if we look at our display, it will give us bin in this case, and that will tell us you are now currently standing in bin. And if we just want to confirm that, all we need to do is type pwd, which helps us print the current working directory, which is displayed here below. So sometimes you really don't have to print or type out the dot and the forward slash, as long as you know where you're standing at. And in this case, we are standing in USR here. We're standing in USR. And how we can do this without typing dot and forward slash is we just type CD and bin, because we are already in our directory called USR. The only thing now we need to mention next is the name of the directory we want to move in. And it is as simple as typing out the command cd bin. So that is generally it. So please make sure you understand how to use pwd, how to use ls, and how to use cd. Another thing that they have done for us here is they have a few shortcuts that we can use. And they're saying that if we type cd followed by nothing, cd will change the working directory to our home directory. So what that means is it will take us to the very, very beginning of our file system, which is our home directory. And a related shortcut is to type cd and using this tilde sign and the username. And the username depends on your PC and how you've named it. So usernames will differ, but that is how you can simply move from wherever you're standing in your maze or in your file system and move all the way to your home directory. I hope you got that one right. So the next thing is when we type cd and one single dash, as mentioned here, it will just change our working directory to the one that was previous. So you don't really need to cram your previous directory that you're working in, just type cd dash and your device will take you to the previous one that you're working in. And there are some very important facts that you need to know or understand for you to be better placed to know how to navigate in your file system. So one thing that we need to know is that files that begin with a period character are hidden. So this means that when we use our ls command, it will not list these names that start with a dot character unless we use ls-a. So what this will do is it will just display all the files, because as we mentioned, our Unix systems don't have that graphical user interface where we are able to see all the files and all the directories. But in this case, when we use ls-a, we will be able to see all the files, all the directories, everything, and in this case, even the files that begin with a period character that are normally hidden when you use ls. The other thing we need to know is that file names in Linux systems are case sensitive. So if you have two different files, one named file1 where F is capital and the other one where F is a small case letter, this will be treated as two different files. I hope you got that one right. This will be two very different files. Another thing we need to understand is in Linux, our Linux does not have the concept or the understanding of what a file extension is like in Windows. And in this case, a good example will be in Windows, we have Word documents, we have Excel documents, we have PDF documents. So we can easily save them and refer to them using the .pdf, .excel, and so on and so forth. But for our Linux systems, they don't have that. So we need to specifically save them with those extensions because Linux will not know it because it does not care about the different file extensions. The other thing that we need to know is that though Linux will support long file names which may contain embedded spaces and punctuations and characters like that, please make sure that you do not have spaces in your file name. In Windows, you can save your name, your file names with spaces in between. For example, if we had a file called shell navigation, we can type out shell and space navigation in Windows systems. But in Linux, please don't embed that in the file name. Instead, you can decide to have shell navigation as one word with no space in between these names, or you can decide to have shell and have an underscore and navigation next. So limit the punctuation characters to only period, dash, and underscore. So if there are any other punctuations that are there like comma and anything else, it will not allow you to use it. It will only allow period, a dash, and an underscore. But most importantly, do not embed spaces in the file names. Yes. So that marks the end of our review for this very fast shell navigation concept, which is the most important one, and it will be covered in today's content. If you liked today's video, please like it, share it with a friend, and make sure that you subscribe and click on the notification bell so that each and every single time we post a video, you are quickly notified and you're notified in good time. Thank you for watching today's video, and until next time, please enjoy and have a good time and continue coding and happy coding. And until next time, happy coding.